Hello from Kampala, Uganda. Welcome to yet another edition of Random with me, Abalo Irene Otto. I have a guest who is very special in many ways because she doesn't speak just one language. She speaks 7. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 7. And that is none other than Sandra Akello. So, for the sake of those who don't speak Luo, actually in this instance, I was just greeting her. Kindly introduce yourself to us, because today we're going to talk about languages, the place of language, not just in our lives for connections and communication, but language as a career.
Thank you, Irene. My name is Sandra Akello, and I'm a language communication specialist. I have been doing this for over 12 years, and I started from language translation, then I came to transcribing, then finally interpretation. Yes, and we began with drama, the rock point, the straight talk. That's where we began from. Then we went into advertising and the rest. And as I speak, I can confidently write scripts, get them translated by myself in Lango, Acholi, Ateso. I can confidently look at Luganda, Kiswahili, Ngakare Mahjong, and a bit of Runyakitara. When you know one local language, it gives you an opportunity to explore what the others look like. It's funny, but it might be easier for you to interpret a sentence or contextualize it from one local language to the other and bypass English.
At this point, I want to understand whether it also comes as a package with the culture, because in some languages, you have to sort of first understand the culture and also know what the gestures mean for the words to make sense.
Absolutely, because first of all, as Africans, and I'm speaking because I'm African, our languages are very rich, and our language is part of our culture. So the language can be used for speech, or for music, or for any other gestures and intonations that mean something to our language. And because of that, it's important to contextualize, because one word can mean two things. Yes. I'm going to speak Luganda since we began with Luo. There is okuta and okuta.
And the pronunciations are similar.
Literally. One means to release. The other means to kill.
So how you articulate it?
Yes. It could be the same pronunciation. Absolutely two different meanings depending on the context. Now, because in Uganda we have about 44 known languages, official, and then unofficial could go up to 70. There's every other day as a country we discover that there's a minority language that is somewhere. So there are those additional ones that keep coming on board.
We have 54 tribes in this country, Uganda. Although we're going to talk about international languages, but I'm still curious to know, are the languages coming out of these tribes, or there are other groups of people that we had not yet included among the 54?
I think that as a country, we generalized some of them. When I was first introduced to the industry, I remember the client would ask for about 4 to 5 regional languages. We would combine. Say now Luo would have Lango, Acholi, Alur, and a few other Acholi Labuo, which is literally Ngakare Mahjong.
Acholi Mamalu. That's from Kitgum.
Yes, absolutely different, because then there's Acholi that is attached to South Sudan. It's absolutely different. So that is how it was categorized. Then when it came to the east, we looked at Teso. Now Teso had Ngakare Mahjong, which is completely different from Ateso. Even in Karamojong itself, as a region, there is like 5 different. There is the Pokot. There is completely different. Even in Kotido, it's absolutely different.
I think it's a similar situation when you go to West Nile. Yes. Literally every district you go to, you have to speak a different language.
Absolutely, because there is Lugbara, there is Kakwa, there is Madi.
You know, you drive from Aroa to Yumbe. It's such like a 2 hours drive, and then you're speaking Aringati.
Absolutely, and then so at some point in time when the clientele would be asking, say, about I'm going to focus on 2 languages, Arabic and Kiswahili. So the first question you would ask is, who is your audience? And this was to determine which kind of Arabic or Kiswahili are we going to use. Now, if you go to the IDP camps, the resettlement camps, you will find that the language is mixed because of the population that is there. So the language is an adapted language. It evolves with time. It's like the Kiswahili from Kenya.
Like they speak Sheng in...
It's a mixture of English and
If you go to Kibera, don't take your serious Swahili. You had better know some Sheng.
And yet when you go to Tanzania, they are what we would call the classic people. The classic Swahili people.
I don't know if in your languages space you feel like in Uganda is where we diluted Kiswahili.
I don't think so. I think we tried to adopt the original because the Swahili language was mostly spoken by the security persons, the security personnel, especially the army and the police. So I think because the language is taught in its original form, Ugandans have literally, the ones that know actually the original form, we might actually speak a bit better than Kenyans. For interaction purposes, yes.
Formal communication, you say?
Now, for formal communication, we would call it the classic Swahili, which is literally classic, but we would tag it to Tanzanian Swahili. We're not supposed to tag any language to a particular region, but for purposes of just understanding and getting a better concept, I'll give you a scenario. When we look at the international languages, so the international languages, there are 6 official. Of course, there is English, there is French, Portuguese, Spanish, there is Chinese, which is Mandarin. So in China, there's also different small little other Chinese languages in, but this is the official one, which is called Mandarin. So if you ever hear Chinese Mandarin, that is what they mean, just the official language.
So we can have Chinese people come here and they don't understand each other.
It can be dramatic, but I think they also have something that they literally be able to understand, just like Swahili. For the best, we would all be able to understand. Okay. Yeah. And so they would call it the academic Swahili or the academic Arabic.
Or the academic Mandarin.
Yes, because then that becomes a more standardized way of communication and everybody can sort of be on the same radar, which is easy.
I understand even in sign language, there's a standardized one where if you studied sign language at school or you studied in a formal setting, you're able to communicate literally to everyone. But if you used gestures and studied sign language just so you can basically communicate, other people may not understand you.
Absolutely, because then it becomes like slang. So anything that is not standardized and is just something that is adopted along the way is a slang. So yeah, so whether it is spoken or sign language, it still stays slang because it is something that we have adopted to because it probably makes communication a little easier, but it doesn't make it official.
You've just reminded me of a time when we were in a place called Lingen in Germany. And literally, we could not hear anything. We could not understand anyone. We stopped at greeting and that was it. Until we went to a shop and we could not buy anything. And we had to start looking for where our translator was already overwhelmed because we were many who could not understand what was going on in our environment. So what is the place of languages? I'm asking this intentionally because there are people who think if I let my child speak English, that's enough. They'll get around in this world, whichever part of the world. They're going to be fine with English. What's your experience with English as a language? And especially if you're moving outside of, I don't want to say the Commonwealth. Let me just say outside of Uganda.
Yes. I think English sets a base for you because it's a global language for starters. That's a base. I mean, in Uganda, we already have how many languages? So many languages. So we might not all be able to learn each other's language. But in the list, there are 2 expectations. One, that at least you know your local language. Now, I have parents who are from different tribes. My mom is Itesot and my dad is Lango. And my parents who are very intentional about us learning the language. So if this holiday you are in Teso, the next holiday you are in Lango. And then there was a standard that if you reached a certain age and class, you needed to stay in the village during vacation for you to be able to learn the culture. So that you're not just speaking the language, it is making sense. When you talk about culture exchange, most times we think it's just language. No, it's a way of life.
Okay.
Yeah. Language is a way of life. Language is music. Language is dance. All those things communicate. Because a language could be verbal or non-verbal. There is body language.
So if a parent insists that their child learns only English, I may not stretch this much, because I understand that some parents also, they come from different cultures. So in the house, I come from a setting where it's a mix of so many things, so we can only speak English. But me as a mother, I'm intentional to speak actually. But there are settings where people are not even able to speak their mother tongue because it is so diverse in one house. So the mother is a Mnyankole, the father is a Muganda, the maid is an Achole. And the child is trying to learn all this, and in the neighborhood, you have neighbors who speak Lukbar. How do you get your child to learn your local language while learning this English and all the other interests that you'll impose on them? Say, for instance, you want them to also learn an international language, but there's already all this confusion happening around them.
Okay. First of all, I think that as an individual, and especially as a parent, you have to be intentional. Now, you might not have the time to give to the child, especially to be able to speak the language. But if you can make it intentional to just communicate to them in your language, it would be nice. The beauty about children is at that age, they have the capacity to accommodate all languages you give them. Why? Because they are just in a molding stage. And this molding stage has a lot of space. That is where character development takes place. That is where a lot of development takes place in the mind, in the body, and the body is literally at a receiving stage. So I think every parent should look at it as an opportunity that this is about the time. That's why they say about that time, be careful what the child listens to, what the child sees.
If you're the one saying, and you're in Gayaza,
your child is just literally going to look at you and say, mommy, you are lying.
That is lying. He's in Gayaza, not wise.
Yes, and most times parents take it as a joke, but at some point in time the child will tell, but last time you said this, so why are you telling me something different? That is when you realize that your action that you deemed very minute was actually something really huge. So if you speak to, say, your house help in English, and how you address them both in English and the local language, the child is watching.
I find it difficult to understand how, for instance, a child who comes from an urban setting goes to a village setting and they're insisting on English, and the parent is also insisting on English and making everybody else, including the grandparents, speak English, even when they're struggling to speak English. I don't know. How do you help your child come out of this one language situation?
It starts from the parent. Now, some people look at it as a superiority complex, that you know English and that you can speak very good English. No.
And that you're bright.
Yes. But, and in no way meant, no offense meant, sometimes you look at where the English came from. Let me explain it. Ugandans are known to be the best English speakers because it doesn't matter where we go in the world. Everybody can understand how we speak. Of course, if the accent is in the proper place. I am speaking because I know that some of our languages, the intonations are so strong.
Like for me and actually I don't have STH and all those things. So when I don't mix with other people and explore, my English will be different.
Yes, but even amidst that, we still have the ability to speak with clarity. Even with a heavy accent, we can still speak with clarity. You will be able to understand what we are saying well. Yeah, which I think is a beautiful thing. And I think that for parents who probably can't speak their own languages, because there are those, get a maid. Because the house helps from our side, and no way to boast. The house helps from Teso and Langu are the most amazing because they easily adopt to English.
We're not advertising people from that side, but I also had one who actually was very helpful. And she was very good at mathematics. Anyway, let me stop there.
So what happens is, even when she comes, her mind is open enough to learn English if she came and she didn't know. I remember all our house helps. They came only knowing the local language. But I can assure you, by the time they left, they spoke very good English. Why? They allow themselves to adopt, to learn the language, to communicate, to do their job better.
I don't know what you're doing, Sandra, but I am here looking at the one who is married to another one but is not allowing or accepting to speak their language. Again. They go and speak English in the in-law situation room.
Culturally, that is very disrespectful. It is very important, and this especially comes in for partners. It's important for you to actually have an idea of what your partner's language is, of how they speak, even just for the basics. You might not speak it perfectly, but your intention to learn, your attempt, is a sign of respect. It's a sign of love. It's a sign of respect to the family of your partner, but it's a sign of love to your partner. That at least you know a word or two, even words of intimacy. Even that I just love you, even that I can greet your parents, even that, because it's part of the, and I'll give you an example. I can say, hi, Irene, good morning. And you say, good morning, and that's well. Now, let me speak in Luganda. Wasuzotia Nyabo, wasuzotia Irene. Now, if you are an elder, that greeting sends your knees to the floor.
I also noticed that some languages, when you're speaking, force you to be humble. You can't say Jebele Kosebu. Exactly. You can't be rude in certain languages. Amoriba, Timabe.
Ichonini. Ichomam. Ikwenyitibie. Yeah? Even when you're saying ikwenyitibie or yoga toto. Now, toto means mother in Ateso. Yoga papa. That is like mzee or dad or an elder who is a man.
I think it also starts your day well. Yes. You start with the yes. Oira. It's naturally a way to say, hey, look here. Come down to us in this setting. So away from the national context that we're speaking about, to those listening to us, we've spoken a lot of Ateso. We spoke a bit of Nakaramajong.
Nakaramajong.
Okay. Just like I was told that you don't say look bara, you say look barati, aringati. I was like, okay, I am also learning. Yes. So away from our national context here in Uganda, if you are to have someone use language to transition into the job market, the job world, the trade world, how easy is it for us? Say you've grown up in this setting of so many languages being spoken near you. How can you easily pick up on any and then run with it? Okay. International languages, do they only have to be French, Portuguese, and which other one? Mandarin, for you to be able to get employment in the languages sector?
Okay, so I'll just give a background to this. I am a communications specialist. However, I have also transitioned to a language communication specialist. Now, a communication specialist will generalize me, literally anything communications, but now my niche is languages, because when it comes to language translation, interpretation, and transcribing, that's exactly where I sit. And that means that I get to have the opportunity to contextualize all of these scenarios. Being a language translator does not make you an interpreter.
Oh.
No.
I thought if I can translate on paper, I can now also go stand somewhere and interpret.
Absolutely not. Some people are gifted with that ability, but not everybody. But you might be able to transcribe. To translate is to get written material in one language and then write it in another language. To interpret is to verbalize. You listen to someone speaking and you say exactly what they have said in context that they have said. To transcribe is to get an audio or video material and then script it word for word. depending on what the client's intention is, there's something we call dubbing. It's literally called captions. Now, captions is when you write under a video, you write it in words, like when we began watching Korean movies and the Indian ones, a long time ago. Okay, no, that people still. However, dubbing is also when I'd like to call it interpretation, but it's called dubbing because you know how we'd have the Indian movies? Mm-hmm. It is completely in Indian.
Or Spanish or...
Thank you, like the Telemundos.
Korean, or these days we have one that's running on a television station nationally that is Russian.
Exactly. However, what is voiced out is English.
Yes.
That's called dubbing. Because literally the words should be exactly what is being spoken. But again, like I said, contextualized.
I think the ones who do they pick from English or Pidgin English to Luganda, Choli, and all the others, Nyankore, Rutoru. I think they do dubbing because they're trying to give you context of what the other people are saying in their culture to match your own culture.
Yes, so it will not be a direct translation. Yes, it will not be a direct translation because they have to make meaning of it. Like I said, you could say something in one language and in another language you need probably 1 or 2 words or less. So you'll find a client has presented you with a script that is 5 lines. Now when you translate it into Lango, it is maybe 6 or less. And they're like, why is it more? It is because one language is richer than the other. And one word could summarize, how are you? Oliotia. So how are you is 3 letters in one sentence. Oliotia is 1 sentence. 1 word to summarize the 3. So it really depends.
Echening, 2 words, and you are done.
Which echening is even shorter than Oliotia.
Yes. So if I want to transition from my passion of speaking many languages and become a professional, how do I grow into a language person who is using languages not just so I can connect with people or speak, but go boundaries, go borderless to any part of this world and make it my profession?
Okay, so for starters, language is a very unique skill. I think it's a beautiful skill because when you enter the language, you are entering a whole different world. You're entering a people, their culture, their way of life, their music, their dance, who they are. When as an individual, and that is why it's important for you to sort of know your local language, because it gives you perspective from a local stage to an international stage. When I went into this space, I went in out of curiosity. I just wanted to know what it meant to do drama in Lango. Actually, I started with Acholi because the client thought Acholi was the Luo international language of the north. Until they discovered there was Lango, there was a Luo, and they needed to respect those communities because even they had media outlets like radio stations and TV stations that spoke their own language. That's when clientele broke that down. Now, what that did is it opened more employment opportunities. I came from a background where my parents allowed me to speak the language. They encouraged me to speak the language. When I was brought in on board, all I needed to be done was be molded to be able to suit the characters. And now I began to act on radio, which gave me employment because I was in vac.
Oh.
Yes, I was in vacation. I didn't even know what I was doing. Actually, one of my friends just called me and said, hey, come, you speak very nice, Luo. Come, let's go to studio. While we were there, they were looking for an Itesot speaker. And they were lost. They didn't have somebody. So when I came and spoke and the person in charge was in, they said, oh, you actually speak very well. So can you read? I have the gift of reading a script. Just give me a script in whatever language. You can help me with the intonations, but I will be able to read. And for me, that has even helped me read Luganda, Ngakari Mojon, Kiswahili, amongst the rest. It's just the intonation. Now, as I grew, and I'm saying as I grew because as Ugandans, our education system prepares us for a local market, a national market. But the truth is, there are people that I went with to school who did French earlier in secondary. And due to the right environment, I can assure you they're not in this country.
Okay.
But while they were here, they became tutors. they became teachers. They worked with the embassies, and slowly they went out of the country. As I speak, they're teaching in universities in France.
But also, I have this is from very close, or let me just not say very close, from experience. Yeah. Someone who did a language like I'm going to be specific here, the same French.
Yes.
They did it up to senior 6, and they're still here with us. What happened? And there's one who did German, and when you speak to them right now, they struggle to speak. What could have happened? Why are others able to speak and even get to be tutors? Then others do the national exams, pass, but the French, Spanish, or Mandarin doesn't take them far.
I think as a country, we have not positioned ourselves to explore these opportunities. Because, for example, we have very few language centers. Actually, we barely have language centers. Enablers for language proficiency.
What do you mean? Like where I go and speak the language with other people, or where I go and relearn the language?
Both. Yes, both. Alliance Française, which is literally the home of French here, has created a sort of space for this, but I do not know how many people are able to access it. Not because they're not accessible, but because the people probably do not even know about them. There are some people who do not. But I think that would be a very good space. If there was a relationship, an intentional relationship that is created in the education system between the students that are taught while they're in high school and their connection later to Alliance Française as a platform, as a space for interaction, I think this would really help very much. Because after you're done with it, in whose village are you going to be speaking French?
I was actually shocked when we were in some village deep there in northern Uganda, and then the Chinese were doing their construction work, and one of our relatives speaks very good Mandarin.
Yes.
And the guy starts speaking to them in Mandarin. That's how you begin to get translators and people doing gigs out of nowhere. Like they didn't prepare for it, but they have identified you. They know this person can help us in this village.
Actually, there's something you asked me earlier. Why are we intentional about French, Mandarin, that's Chinese, and then Arabic? Our current biggest international employers are affiliated to the different to these 3 particular languages, and yes.
Even our infrastructure, now we have the oil and gas sector, we have a lot of the infrastructure work going on in this country are done by people who speak these 2 languages. I understand now. Yes. I hope our audience can relate with what's happening in our country.
Yes, because now the emerging sector, emerging because we are just starting to appreciate it. Not that they didn't exist, they did, but emerging because we are starting to appreciate it. Obviously, it's the oil sector, oil and gas sector, which literally has majority Chinese. So any Ugandan right now who can actually speak Mandarin, that is an opportunity. You don't need to have any other skill.
You just need to know how to speak or write the language.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you can speak and write the language, even the better for you, because then that really, really helps you. Like, okay, so you're going to interpret literally what the gentleman is saying or what the lady is saying. What else do you need? To walk around with them and talk and say what they are saying or not, because they're here to work. They don't have the time to come and start learning English or Luganda. They could learn it along the way, but for efficiency and effectiveness, they're definitely going to stick to their language, and they would prefer that they have a companion who is going to walk around. So that's the employability, especially for the youth. So if anything, and a youth, this would be the skill that would really help. The other thing is French. Now let's keep in mind that our, for lack of a better word, colonial lingo, English and French were the first here. Yes, and so French helps for most of the other countries that really don't speak English. They speak French.
Okay.
The only other community that is there is Portuguese, Spanish. That is a bit smaller. And then there's the Arabic community. Now remember that Arabic is taught in school for the Muslim community. That's the standardized Arabic. Yeah? But most of them also use it at the mosque. A few of them use it as a daily interaction. It's the same for Latin. But you see, even for that language, you'll find that it's the religious that understand. That's why I spoke about religious earlier. It's the religious that understand it a lot more. Then what happens to the local community or the wider international community? We need the languages that connect us. Now, consider that Uganda as a country has the biggest trade with UAE. What does that mean? That a lot of our business either goes or comes from there.
And when you hear the conversations that happen in those spaces, even the heads of states, and they don't come on stage and speak English. If you attend some of these conferences, you have to have a translator with you, or wear these headsets to get translation for you to sort of like understand what's going on around you. Even when the language is taught in school and people are beginning to sort of like try and find spaces where they can interact with each other. When they get out of this country to go, say you go into Belgium, for instance, or you're going to Germany. I don't know why I keep referring to Germany. Let me say Netherlands. You still have to sort of relearn the language when you reach there. What's the gap here?
The gap is practice, proficiency. Even when you're going to a university, say in the UK and the US, you still need that proficiency paper in English. That test is very important because they also recognize that it's also not our first language.
Okay.
Our first language is our mother tongue. Even if some of us bypass it, it's still our mother tongue, and then we learn English. Now, as much as we've spoken English for 3/4 of our lives, it doesn't mean that, they feel they still need to check. Yes, and so that brings us to the place of, if you are a person right now who is looking to take your career to the next level, this is a good place to start. Because right now, even in the job listing, you need to know a language or two. And it's normally either French or Chinese. Now, if you're going to the Asian countries, there's Arabic attached.
And here in East Africa, I speak Kiswahili in my own way. And you can imagine that job was so easy to do. But the only other difference is you needed to know how to speak and write Kiswahili.
Yes.
And that's where most of us were knocked out.
Exactly, because the expectation is, because we are part of the East African community, we are expected to know Kiswahili. However, the introduction of Kiswahili to Uganda came in a bit later. The intentional through policy that allowed it to be incorporated as a second language. National policy now, because I remember earlier on we talked about the first language. That was not in the context of national policy. National policy, it is English and Kiswahili, but the integration and then the implementation and execution of it is sort of what. And of course, because Ugandans, we had a terrible perspective of Kiswahili. We had a bias because we thought it was only for security people or for thieves or what, because that is what we associated it with. I'll give you a scenario. Luganda is associated with business. The assumption is that Baganda are such business people, and they'll walk around this whole country trying to do business. And so they will incorporate themselves into a community, any community within the country, to be able to make business sense. So because of that, you sort of find Muganda in some sort of place
anywhere.
Country.
And but the thing is, people don't realize that they are using their language strategically to maneuver and find ways of doing business with people who don't speak their language, and they're sort of like asserting influence.
Yes, which I think is a very good thing. And now the rest of the regions, for lack of a better word, forced to sort of get on board.
You have to learn Luganda to survive in any part of this country.
Exactly, because my earlier life as a journalist, that came in very handy. Because then at some point in time, there are conversations. If you needed to get the gist of the story, you had to speak a bit of Luganda. And so I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's chill English and my Luan. I know all those already. Let me incorporate a new language that is going to enable me do my work. And that's what I was talking about, employability. Apart from internationally, even locally right now, when their job listings are happening, you'll find them asking, we want a project manager in Lira, but in the job listing there is prerequisite Lango or Luo. That should be telling to anyone who is developing their career right now that that is a plus for you. It gives you an edge over others. So now imagine if you knew French, or if you knew French, Mandarin, and Arabic. You become an international cell. You become, very flexible and mobile, because you can be placed in any place in this world and be able to communicate. Now add English, because English is now default setting for us. That would mean you know 4 international languages. But keep in mind that while your language is local here, it's international abroad. I'd like to categorically say that there are universities abroad in the US, in the UK, in Russia, that have taken out about 5 Ugandan languages and taught it to their own people, their officers who they are sending into this country to work.
Which languages?
Luganda is one of them. Luo is one of them. Runyankole is one of them.
Because now this becomes the language for not just diplomacy, but business, cultural exchange. And if you're a diplomat or someone who wants to be a global citizen, you really need to get into a space where you can formally learn these languages.
Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, I don't know whether it happens to you, but for me, I think in actually and speak English.
Actually, you're not alone. So do I. In fact, I don't just think in Lango, I think in Ateso.
You think in 2 languages?
I think in 2 languages. Now, our home is so hilarious. So in our home, obviously, we speak Lango, Ateso, and then English. So sometimes if you want to shortwave, or if the understanding of the conversation you are having has come in a different language, we will speak it. Now, we are capable of speaking all the 3 languages at the same time. Because, and I have a particular brother who can understand Ateso, but he might not be able to express himself very well in it. So I'll speak Ateso to him, and then he'll respond in Lango. And I'll still respond in Ateso. And then we can all go back to English. It is very dramatic. I find it so hilarious, but I find it the most beautiful form of communication.
Now, this is what happens in a setting that I am in. One of us does not speak either Luo. So we have someone speak Luganda, another one answers in Acholi, another one answers in English. Then we have this Munyankore part of us.
So I think that is where the beauty of language comes in. And I think that's how everybody should look at it.
Yes.
Because I know people who only learned Luganda here until university and got a degree in it. As I speak, they're in the US teaching.
But also, I don't know why there's a feeling that if you speak your local language, you're not going to find anything meaningful to do. The perception of me knowing my local language and being comfortable with it. I had to sort of sit down a parent because their daughter was so interested in learning Luganda at the university. By the way, she might be listening. I can't wait to read that book that you wrote. She wrote a Luganda book.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And she wants to be a journalist. And as she was going through this phase of choosing what to do at the university, the parents were so much against her doing Luganda. What are you going to do with Luganda? So when we sit and have this conversation today, I'm always thinking of this lady. She's about to graduate, by the way. She's in her last semester. I keep thinking, how many parents are out there looking at the local language, for instance, or additional languages as opportunities for their children, rather than saying, this one, we speak it here every day. Why do you want to, again, go and learn it at school? You're wasting my money.
I think that the decisions we make as human beings depends on the knowledge that we have about something, or the information that we have about something. In this case, language. For the part of language, not many people are really informed about it. So I think our job would be then to educate the masses about the importance of language as a skill. First of all, as a culture, because it's an identity. It's where we belong. When I greet you, just know this person is from here. And it feels like as if you have opened a whole different world.
I have noticed that. Yes. If I go to train and I am in Arua and I start with Mengoni, the responses from my audience is like so warm, welcoming. I am telling you, the rest of the training session is going to be so smooth because I am able to connect with them even with one word or just a greeting. But also a point, like you're trying to explain, a point where this parent only knows one language, the local language, and is only trying to appreciate the other side of English or the international language that the child is trying to learn. Yet the child appreciates the parent and the way they actually speak or use the local language.
Again, we only speak from a point of information. Yes, I think that it would be nice, and this could also become a government role, to run a campaign on the importance of language. First of all, as belonging. This is where we come from. Because where you come from is the beginning of patriotism. Before we start singing about anything else, where you come from is very important. Because even when they say yodeling, you see how you were busy doing something and like, our dance, our song. You get excited. You want to start dancing, but you're very serious and you are literally dancing in your head. Or a part of your body is moving, probably your waist. You're seated, you're very serious, but your waist is doing a whole different job. Yeah? And your neck is probably doing a different job. That's a good place to start because it gives identity, it gives joy. 2, what are the benefits of the language? And again, maybe we want to tie it to something more meaningful.
If you are Akello, when I hear that name, I will get excited because I can know for sure when I speak to you in Lebacholi, you should be able to respond to me in Luo. But you are Ojok, you are Ainebiona, Unogambachi, and you're like...
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. That place of identity is a good place to start from because one, it creates rapport and it opens doors. Then now let's move to the next stage. What can the language do for me? How do I say monetize it? And that is where you become intentional. So as a parent, I would have, 1 or 2 things to say. 1, let your child learn the language. Find language centers. There are some in Makere. There are some we might be setting up soon. Yeah, let them learn your language because it gives them identity. We see right now people in the US testing their DNA to find out where their great ancestors came from. Because they're in the US and they're wondering, where did I come from? Identity is a very good place that builds your character as an individual. Then 2, if this is my identity, what then do I have to give? You only give of. Of means it comes from inside. You don't give what you don't have. You only give of. And of in this language space, it means very nice things. One of my friends was coming today and she said, Sandra, I know you like cooking your local food, so do you think you could cook for me something? And then she began to mention it in all the local language, in the local language, and I was like, oh, okay. And then when she arrived, the first thing she asked is, do you have OD? I am told... She's not mentioning that it's peanut butter. No. She's mentioning it in my language, which then becomes relatable. So initially, even if I didn't want to give her, now I want to give her because of how it relates to me. For employability purposes then, yeah? Because you know a language or 2, you become set apart from the other people. There's something unique about you that can sell. Right now, as a language said specialist earlier, but I'm also a consultant in this, is because I'm able to bring together all the other people that speak all the other languages so that we are able to work together. Okay. Again, you can only speak so many languages as much as your capacity can take in. However, you are allowed to accommodate the other people so that you know what they're saying. Like I told you, Runyaktara is not, Runyankole, Ruchiga is not something that is born in me. No. But the mere fact that I have been in studio to produce these languages and make sure that the script, the voiceovers go through the production and listen to them and even know the intonation of how this advert or this radio drama should come out makes you start to appreciate the language and you start to actually learn it. Now someone can't gossip about you. I can tell what is Runyaktara, which is the combination of the 4 languages. Runyankore, Ruchiga, Rutoro, Runyoro. So they can be broken down into 4 or they can be combined together into 1. Most times it depends on the client's budget. Absolutely. So I think for me, 1, if you have younger children, please encourage them to speak to them. Let's just do the action points. 1, please speak to your children in the local language. Now, if French is also what you use, please speak to them in French. If it's Arabic, please speak to them in Arabic. If you're not able to do it as much, please create an ambience. Maybe bring a house help who can help in that. Encourage them to interact with people because language is learnt most by interaction. Every time, even just English, you realize we're always improving our vocabulary. So this is where it also comes in. You read English, you read a different book, you get a different language. Today I was writing something, I was writing the literature review, and instead of writing, they have the ability to speak, as like they have the ability to orate. I'm like, yo, where did this word come from? I probably have read it somewhere, and this is where it has come in. And now when it comes to international language, please take your kids there. Let them stand out. This could be the skill. And now that the countries abroad, the universities abroad are taking on students with unique skills. There is STEM, but there is language. This could be what sets your child apart. 1, for a scholarship. 2, for easy employment. 3, for exchange programs.
I remember in our family, someone went to do pharmacy, but they came back speaking very good and beautiful Mandarin.
Now you see, you know what that person can become? They can become a medical trader.
A medical trader, because now they won't just be doing the pharmaceuticals. No. They can become the person who distributes, the person who speaks on behalf of the pharmacists for Africa. The job actually goes higher. They could become an assistant or PA or an executive secretary to a bigger organization because of the skill they have that they have adopted. Now he's not just a pharmacist. He didn't even have to go and do what he was trained in initially. No. He can now become a global citizen. And guess what? When he's going into the room, guess who the permanent secretary is going to call? When the partners on the other side are from China, he's going to call him. So that becomes language for diplomacy, language for business, language to cross borders.
Emerging sectors are trade, business, tourism, diplomacy, because it's very important for any diplomat, no matter at what stage, as long as you're representing this country, you're our ambassador. Because you are the face of the country. You need to know something or a language or a cultural nuance of that place to make sense. Yes.
That's why they go and first train you before they deploy you to that country.
It's very important for you to be trained in a language, because then even you're also able to protect yourself. You know, language is actually a security skill. Yes, because I could speak about you and I say, let's kill this person. But you're smiling. You understand? And you are smiling and you do not know that they're planning to kill you right in front of you, in front of your face, because you do not understand the language. It is also a spy language. You can walk into a space and completely keep quiet and say, I don't understand anything. But you literally understand everything that is being said. And all you have to do is report back to the base and say, this is what was said. And you protect your own because of a language that you understand. And even if the other people who you're working with do not understand it. So for diplomacy, it actually comes in very essential. For trade and business, same thing. When you're a trader, you're spying, my friend. All the time you're spying to see what is the best deal. Is the best deal going to be spoken in English? Absolutely not.
And I can relate with that, because not just trade, even in employment. I remember walking into the newsroom and guess what? From the beginning of the meeting to the end of the meeting, it was Kiswahili until they remembered there was someone in the room who does not speak Kiswahili. Yes. I do not wish this to happen to anyone in any formal setting.
I think what made me stand out as a communications person was actually languages. My ability to speak and write has put me in a different stage. As I speak now, when we have international community coming into the country, it's very easy to be the contact person in the languages that I understand. But in my 10-year, 12-year journey, I've also been able to identify the same people in the same field. I can tell you we are few. And it would be nice to have other people come in to reduce the load. So what I'm saying is the language skill is very lucrative in whichever way you look at it, whether as a translator and as an interpreter. I think that everyone should have an extra language because you stand out. It helps you with negotiation skills. You can negotiate anything. You will negotiate anything, including the border guy in Kampala. If you talk to him in English, he's going to say 10,000. If you speak to him in Luganda, he's going to say 5,000. You say, hey, kumbe, you're one of our own. Okay, but you bring your American accent or your English accent, he's going to charge you 10,000.
So price discrimination based on language.
And that is just the minute sense of business. Imagine what it means to be an international business. You're going to go through the same. So it's the same standard around. Get a language and make it work for you. Make it work for you for making better deals. Make it work for you for making better relations as a diplomat, but also for better negotiations as an international business person.
Shukran. Webare mnonga. Asante sana. Afoe matek. I want the listener now to add from there. It's been an honor and pleasure having you, Sandra Akello, on the show Random with me, Irene Abalo Irene Otto. Till next time, I sign out. Bye-bye.